Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. We are really thrilled to present today the final webinar in our series about youth. Today, we will present a portrait of Canadian content creators, in Canada. Before getting into the subject, please note two things. First, you will receive a copy of this recording in the hours following the webinar by email. And second, there will be a question period at the end of the presentation. You can ask your question in the box on the right of your screen. My name is Sarah, and I'm the marketing director at Léger, the largest Canadian-owned market research firm, and I will introduce this webinar today. And the content will be presented by Rachel Harris, content marketing specialist at Léger, and Vincent Bronner, partner and strategy director at Clark Influence. Vincent, could you please say a few words about Clark?
Yes, Clark Influence is an influencer marketing agency operating in Toronto, Montreal, and Paris. We help brands to stand out in the digital landscape, and we build influencer and content strategy. With more than 300 clients in different types of sectors, like the food industry, the wine and spirit industry, or the travel industry.
Thank you, Vincent. And this year, we decided to create a study focused on content creators. It is a first in Canada to have a study that surveys content creators themselves. In the past, we asked millennials and Gen Z about their favorite influencers, how they felt about them, if they trust the products and services that they present on their platforms. And this part of the study was so interesting that we decided to develop a study about them, on content creators in Canada. So let's start with the beginning, of course, the methodology. So we asked about 200 Canadians content creators, 20 questions and 50 sub-questions. And I'll let Rachel and Vincent get into the subject, our results, and our conclusions.
So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. We're going to start with a profile of the content creators that we surveyed. So among those that we surveyed, we found they are especially female, in that 80% of them are women. And this makes sense to us, given that we know the profession tends to skew female. One fairly common misconception we find that some people have about content creation is that they're just young people on TikTok, but that's not really the case. In fact, 44% of them are 30 or older. Over half of them make less than 30,000 per year, and 9% make more than 100,000. First and foremost, content creation helps the creators share their passions and express themselves. 71% have another job other than content creation, and they spend about 10 to 20 hours of their time on content creation per week, in addition to their other full-time or part-time work. It can be tough to get started in content creation, and it takes time. Many of the content creators who responded to our survey said they feel that the market is getting more and more saturated. We also asked the content creators we spoke to share what sphere of influence they work in, and the most common were lifestyle, food and cooking, fashion, travel, and family life. Most indicated that they work in the lifestyle category, which involves sharing how they live, what's important in their day-to-day lives, etc. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a shift in many of these categories. Of course, we noticed a huge decrease in travel with various government restrictions and the government urging people to stay home. And therefore, content creators who worked in the travel category needed to reinvent the wheel a little and expand their expertise to other areas. In addition, we also saw more content creators talking about cooking and food, which makes perfect sense given the closure of restaurants. And others talk about tips for, say, reducing anxiety or how to organize your workspace, other themes that are kind of peripherally related to the pandemic.
Yeah, it is true that in terms of categories, like food was the big winner in 2020. At the agency, we actually did a lot of campaigns with Sobeys, Del Monte, Pernod Ricard, or General Mills. But it doesn't mean that there are no other opportunities, even in the travel industry. For instance, we've worked with Fairmont Hotels after the first lockdown to promote local tourism within a province. So as a brand, you really need to be creative with your influencer strategy, and you will be able to stand out even during this weird period.
Next, we're going to be talking about the platforms that the content creators are using. So by far, the most popular platform used among the content creators is Instagram. 100% of the ones we spoke to said that they use it. Facebook functions more as a complement to other social media. It's not necessarily used on its own for paid partnerships. In fact, the groups function tends to be more popular. Not everyone has a YouTube account, but those who do choose to focus on YouTube are making quite a bit of money. We are also seeing the rise of TikTok. It's more popular in the United States. Canada's a bit late to the party, but it's starting to pick up. So on this slide here, you'll see some of the more popular platforms, and we've also identified the percent of people who use them and the average number of followers they have on each. What is the platform of the future? The survey says that it's Instagram. Among the content creators we spoke to, it's the most popular, the most profitable, and the most promising. 79% of the creators we spoke to said that Instagram is the most profitable platform for them. In terms of their costs per post and per story, on average, they charge about $1,000 per Instagram post, and on average, about $500 for a story. Those with more followers tend to charge higher amounts, which makes sense. But of course, in terms of pricing, many other factors, such as their engagement rate, come into play. Those who have more than 50,000 followers tend to only be content creators. That is, they're not doing another job in addition to content creation and earn more than $50,000 a year. We also learned that content creators feel Instagram is the most promising platform for the future. Instagram is increasingly becoming more focused on shopping and e-commerce, which is advantageous for companies given the high adoption among content creators.
True. Like we were not surprised with 100% of creators saying that they are on Instagram. Like it proved the hegemony of this social media, and Instagram is actually constantly rolling out new features that are easily adopted by its users since more than 10 years now. They celebrated the 10th anniversary last year, and it's funny because they usually get a lot of inspiration from its competition as well. When we look at stories, for example, Instagram's top format that is highlighted on the top of the app, the idea initially came from Snapchat. And the founder of Instagram, Kevin Systrom, admitted Snapchat deserves all the credit, but it doesn't mean that the format cannot be adopted by other platforms. And the same goes with the new format from Instagram, Instagram Reels. As a quick reminder, Instagram Reels is a format which allows users to create short videos with effects, transitions set to background music. And this format is very similar to Vine that was launched in 2012 and to TikTok. But when Instagram does it, we note like a widespread adoption by its users. And what I want to point out to you is that as a brand, you should really pay attention to all the new formats because there are a lot of opportunities. The Instagram Reel, for example, is a cool and fun feature that gets a high engagement on Instagram. And one of the features that is still underestimated, as mentioned by Rachel, is Instagram shopping. Also, it can be very profitable for a brand to connect its e-shop with IG shopping. With the current context, people are meant to buy online, and like with hours spent daily on Instagram, you better be on the platform.
YouTube is commonly used by the content creators we spoke to who make more money and have a lot of followers. 75% of creators who earn more than 50K per year have a YouTube channel, compared to 27% of those who earn less than 10,000 per year. They tend to have support with their videos and work with other people like camera operators, video editors, etc. Because of the extensive editing involved, YouTube tends to require more work than Instagram, but it pays when it's used. Because of the extra work and effort involved, content creators charge more for YouTube content than content on Instagram. 5 to 10 years ago, building an audience on YouTube was easier. Nowadays, the trend that we're observing is that content creators are building their audience elsewhere, for example, on Instagram, and then transferring their followers to YouTube. It is less common for content creators to be building an audience on YouTube and then shifting that audience, say, to Instagram, for example.
Yes, that is true. Like people underestimate how hard it is to make it on YouTube because it's like a regular full-time job, writing the concept, shooting, editing videos, uploading them, adding all the description to make sure they get discovered by the algorithm. So you really need to hustle to build an audience on YouTube. And like we've just taken two example, like when you do a YouTube video like that is 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long, like to explain to your audience how to plan a road trip with a client like Ford, it really takes a lot of time like to create this kind of video. And it's not as easy as posting on Instagram. We also did a campaign with the Earth Day recently, and like the creator on YouTube had to create like a recycle center at home, like in the do-it-yourself vibe. So obviously this kind of content takes a lot of time, and that also explains why a YouTube video is a lot more expensive than an IG post, because it comes with a lot of work.
So the next platform we'll talk about is TikTok. 50% of the 18 to 24-year-old content creators we spoke to said that they use TikToks. It's becoming a platform for young creators. It does have the potential to generate a lot of followers. On average, those using TikTok that we spoke with said they have about 44,000, but not necessarily as much potential to get income from it. No one said that they earn most of their income on TikTok, and about 9% said they earn revenue there. For now, TikTok is seen as more of a complement to the more established platforms such as Instagram, which makes sense. And on average, content creators charge similar amounts for TikTok videos and Instagram stories. With TikTok, because it's such a new platform, it's difficult to tell how the algorithm works and who is in the audience. For example, a Canadian content creator who is making videos on TikTok may have a lot of followers who are not in Canada, which is something to keep in mind if you are a Canadian company who is partnering with a content creator who does their content on TikTok.
Yes, TikTok is definitely the big winner during the pandemic. Coronavirus definitely helped TikTok to find its voice. And there is a misconception about TikTok being the platform only for teenagers. As Rachel said, like with 50% of creators that are older than 25 years old. So there are a lot of chefs on the platform. They are making recipe at home while restaurants are closed. And like food again is a big trending topic on TikTok. And TikTok allows creators to be very creative with a lot of effects, transitions, and so it comes with a lot of opportunities for brands. Maybe you've heard of the Guac Dance Challenge with Chipotle. To celebrate National Avocado Day, they ask like Guacamole fans to show off dance moves dedicated to avocados, and they receive like 250K submissions. So in terms of user-generated content, and brand exposure is just crazy. Like it goes viral and you don't control it. So what I want to say is that TikTok is really experiencing like a rise in popularity at the moment. So it's the right time to get involved as a brand and to try to partner with creators that are already on the platform.
Now we'll discuss what motivated content creators to become content creators, as well as their practices. One of the key questions we asked the content creators in our survey is why they became a content creator. The top motivators are wanting to share their passions, so 77% said that, and to express their creativity, where we have 66% saying that. This really highlights the importance of integrating content creators into your marketing briefs and working collaboratively in paid partnerships. The content that you ask them produce must resonate with them and with their followers. Those who said they became a content creator by chance or by accident, about half of them, is more common among those who started creating content longer ago. Back then, the market was newer, there was more potential for experimentation, and some may have just been playing around for fun, but now have huge audiences. 37% said they wanted to be their own boss, which really speaks to how they want to be able to decide what goes into their content and make sure it resonates. 21% said they want to advance important causes. Wanting to advance a cause that they feel important is not new among content creators, but it really exploded this year. 9% said they began creating content for a career in traditional media. This is more common among those who are age 30 and older. It doesn't really show up in the younger age groups.
Yes, so we've already mentioned that creators want to share their passion, so I'm not going to comment on the first item that motivate creators. But what is interesting to point out is that to see how the coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter movement has changed the influencer business and culture. We can see that 21% of creators want to advance important causes. We don't have a comparison from last year, but it's obvious that this percentage would have been lower and not in that top 5 in the influencer industry. Now we really we can see that creators want to speak out, and so do brands, and consumers expect brands to take a stand on political and social issue. And as an engaged brand, you need to ensure that creators support your values, that you share the same values, so you can make a good fit when you work with creators. For example, a brand that did a good job was Sephora, when they decided to give 15% of shelf space to Black businesses. And then they decided to collaborate with Shana Ingleton-Smith, and she's a perfect fit because she's the founder of Canadian Black Standard, which is an organization focusing on removing systemic barriers faced by Black Canadian women. So the fit with the brand and the creator is really good, and that's how you make your campaign efficient.
Content creation also has an important ethics component to keep in mind. Creators told us they feel like they are under a microscope, both from the people that follow them and to an extent with the companies that are within their market. They want to avoid recommending subpar products to their followers at all costs. There's a positive flip side to this, because when content creators they trust recommend products, consumers have more confidence. As we've been discussing, for a successful partnership, it's essential to understand the content creator that you are working with, their values, what motivates them, etc. Communication and transparency between brands and creators is key. We also found that 44% of content creators we spoke with feel obligated to take a stand. We also asked the content creators about the reasons that they choose to partner with companies. The top 5 reasons are services or products that appeal to them, companies that align with their values, having freedom as a creator, companies with personalized approaches, and receiving good remuneration from the company. This resonates a lot with us given the other data that we found in the survey. Money is important, as we see here, but it's not the top consideration. They first ask themselves whether it fits with them and with their audience. This really highlights as well the importance of customizing briefs and tailoring them to the specific content creators you're working with. And I think it's well known that if you're writing a resume, for example, you don't just write the same resume 20 times and send it to 20 different companies. You customize your cover letter, you tell them how your skills will work for them, and you really investigate who you're applying with. It's really similar here in terms of the analogies.
Yes, it definitely makes sense with best practices that we have at the agency. Like anything that is created together by the brand and the creator from the very beginning can not only maximize the effectiveness of your influencer marketing campaign, but also can improve product development from a creative perspective. An example of brand that successfully pulled out this new and more integrated form of collaboration is Habit, which is a skincare company, and they named an influencer, Emma Chamberlain, as the creative director of the brand. So it totally makes sense because she's integrated in the company, and she brings her creativity to the brand, and that makes a success for this collaboration.
We also asked the content creators about the challenges they faced and what is stressing them out. Many of their sources of stress are similar to what we'd see in other people as well. Feeling like they're running out of time at 67%, worries that others are more successful, 58%, feeling like they work too much, 55%, feeling that their work is being judged at 42%, and financial stress at 27%. What really stands out here to us is the stress that's caused by social media algorithms and statistics. 65% of the creators report stress related to algorithms, and 61% report stress related to statistics. There's no manual for the constantly changing algorithms, and content creators often feel like they need to go by feel and constantly adjust.
Yes, just a quick reminder how the algorithm work, and like to understand better the pressure creators can get. So there are like three main factors. First, the interest. Second, the relationship. Third, the timeliness. So interest, it depends on the kind of content you've interacted with in the past. So for example, if you like travel content, like the artificial intelligence will detect it's a travel content, it will push it to you in your feed. Then there is the relationship, because no matter how many accounts you follow, you should see your best friend's latest post. So it's the people you direct message, the people you search for, the people you know in real life because you've identified them on your post. And then the third essential factor is timeliness. Obviously, something from last week might not interest you as much as something from an hour ago. So that's why Instagram will likely show you more recent posts rather than posts from the past. And it also depends on the performance of your post and the engagement it gets. So that being explained, we understand the pressure a creator can get because they need to publish very, very frequently, at least one post per day on Instagram, and they need to produce very high quality content in no time. Otherwise, the algorithm is pushing them aside. So we were not surprised by the results of the study because it totally makes sense with all the algorithm. It works with Instagram, but it also works with the other algorithm. Like you always need to have like frequency and very quality content to be on the spotlight.
We also asked the content creators about the income they make in 2020 and also the year before in 2019. Overall, they're making a similar amount of money, but it's important to remember that due to COVID-19, many companies are making less money and have less funds to allocate to their marketing budget. It's going to be interesting to observe what happens when companies begin to recover and can potentially allocate more funds. There's also a few consequences of the pandemic that are noteworthy. First, the importance of finding people where they are. Rather than crowding busy subway stations or jostling along the street to get to and from work 5 times a week, many Canadians are now working from home and engaging in social distancing, which has resulted in companies understanding they need to spend more money on digital platforms to advertise and reach people. In addition, the content creator profession continues to become more professional, which is creating better funded campaigns. So in terms of the future of influence marketing, we asked the creators what they feel the future looks like for their profession. We identified 5 key themes that I'll share with you, and I'll also share some of the verbatim comments that we received from the content creators in their survey responses. It's important to remember that those comments are to add flavor to the data and to give an idea of what's running through the minds of content creators. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single person shared that thought. First off, content creators have confidence in the future of their industry, feeling they are the new face of marketing and going to replace traditional media. However, they are nervous about competition. In that one person said, I'm nervous about the future of my career, not the industry. This is often related to feeling like the market is saturated, and in order to stand out, you must really differentiate yourself and hustle and work hard, as Vincent mentioned earlier. Closeness and authenticity is also of the utmost importance to content creators, and they note how important it is to be authentic with and respect their followers. In addition, they often feel misunderstood, both by people who are following them and by companies, pointing back to something I noted earlier, the feeling that they are under a microscope. Activism and speaking out also emerged as a popular theme, and one content creator noted, will be a reliable and authentic source of information and have a voice in the media. So we will proceed to questions shortly. Vincent, before we do, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think I get the question and interact with the people that are with us.
Sounds great. So we'll
Perfect.
open the floor for questions. Sarah will assist us with this.
Thank you very much, Rachel and Vincent. It was really interesting. So yes, as Rachel mentioned, you have a box on the right of your screen called questions, and you can just write your question. You're all on mute, but we'll be able to reply to them orally. And if you have questions that are more specific, or you would like to talk to Vincent or Rachel really specifically about the survey, will be available after the webinar by email to answer them. So there's an interesting question from Sarah Hovind. How did we find our sample for this study? So I don't know, Vincent and Rachel, maybe you can collaborate on this answer because it was a collaborative work. So Vincent, maybe you can go ahead.
Yeah, so we've been working with creators like since more than 4 years. So we are in the industry and we know the influencers. So we decided to partner with Léger, and we sent this survey to all the influencers we work with all across Canada.
And we at Léger sent this survey invitations in order to ensure that the responses would be confidential, that they wouldn't be tied back to the influencers personally. So we protected their confidentiality that way and managed the data on our end.
Exactly. So we can wait again 1 or 2 minutes for more questions. There's a question maybe for you again, Vincent. Someone is interested if there is any insights or further breakdown of influencer income, of what they charge in terms of gender, industry. So sometimes we are looking to find really specific influencer to talk about a specific subject. So is there some charge or revenue that change based on that?
Like the gender or race are not like discriminating in the influencer industry. At least like we don't do that. Like we pay the influencers based on their engagement rate, on their number of followers, organic reach, organic number of views on stories. So we have a lot of other parameters that come into account when it comes to charging fees that influencers charge.
Yeah, and there can be some things about not being able to work with the competitors, for example. So there's a lot of things that we can ask in a contract, in an agreement with an influencer that impact the fees and the price that they will ask. So maybe another question for you, Vincent. I feel a lot of questions will be more specific to influencer marketing. So of course, again, Vincent will be available to answer some questions by email. You will all receive an email in the following hours this afternoon after this webinar ends with the possibility to email us if you have any more questions. So if a brand is still building out their followers and presence on Instagram, so we're talking about a brand here, does it make sense to also start working on TikTok or wait until things are more established on Instagram?
So if you have time and the resources, I would advise to work on both strategies because like it's two platforms and they both have like their audiences. So and like you have to define another content strategy for both platforms. Like it's always funny because like when TikTok launched its format at the beginning, like all the TikTok format went to Instagram, and that's why one of the reasons Instagram decided to launch the Reel. Because it's like a kind of the same format, and they saw that like users wanted to have this video content because they stole it from TikTok and put it on Instagram. So you could have a like both of strategy, like using Instagram Reels and TikTok, and have like two platforms to reach out to your audience.
Maybe a last question from Shannon that asked, and it's a really interesting question that, again, Vincent, you will have the answer to. Do you find engagement is lower on sponsored posts? And I feel that here we're gonna come back to the co-creation with the influencer is so important to be able to present our product that fits with their values and with their followers. So what is your answer to that?
Yes. So like if the influencers is involved in the creative process, the content will appear organic and natural to the audience. If you're a brand and you say, all right, take my product, put it in your hands, take a photo, post it on Instagram, mention it's an ad, it's not going to work, and engagement will obviously be lower. But if you involve them, then you'll get like engagement rates that are closer to the usual rates they have on their account.
Absolutely. So I see we're getting a lot of questions. Of course, we want to make this session as short and specific for everyone. As I mentioned before, you will receive the recording of this presentation by email this afternoon, and you'll be able to contact us individually to ask all of your questions. I don't know, Vincent or Rachel, if you wanted to add something else before we finish this session.
No, like Sarah is going to send you our email. So if you want to touch base, I'll be happy to answer your questions with more details.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Vincent and Rachel, for your time. Thank you for these precious insights. So again, you'll receive an email this afternoon with the recording and something else that we didn't mention in the beginning, but you will receive 2 free reports, one at the end of January and one in the beginning of February. The one you'll get by the end of the month covers the youth studies. So who are millennials? Who is Gen Z? And the second one will cover what we saw today together. Content creation in Canada, who are these influencers, what are their motivations? So it's going to be, of course, it's going to look what we presented today. It's going to be about the same content, but you'll be able to have a report that you can keep in your documents for reference. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for attending this webinar. We're really happy to have been able to share this content with you, and we'll see you soon in another webinar. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.